California's Communities is supported by the California Redevelopment Association Foundation, a statewide organization made up of cities, counties, nonprofits, and private businesses sharing a common goal of bringing renewed life to neighborhoods and downtowns by expanding local businesses, creating jobs, building affordable housing, restoring buildings, and improving public facilities and infrastructure. Redevelopment, building better communities throughout California.
Okay, there it is off in the distance, the skyline of San Francisco, and what a beautiful sight that is. We got the clouds, the water, the blue skies. It's just a beautiful sight looking across the bay, but we are not here to spend the day in San Francisco. We are across the bay to spend the day in Richmond, California, and Troy, Richmond is kind of off the map for a lot of people, isn't it?
Well, for a lot of people, yes, but a lot of people are getting to know Richmond for the water and the beauty that's here.
Well, now, historically, traditionally, what was Richmond known as?
Oh, industrial town. Made a lot of ships during World War II. Big industry like Chevron and different big industries.
Chevron's still here. All the oil is still here.
Chevron is here.
All right, and we're here.
Yes.
And the industry of Richmond is still here. And that's our cue. Come on, fellas. Talk about industry. This is why we're here, to look at this. And it goes way down in that direction and way down in that direction. What are we looking at, Troy?
We're looking at the Ford Assembly Building, now referred to as Ford Point.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the history of this building, because we got some great photographs of this building. Let's talk about its history. When was it built and why was it built?
Well, it was built in the early 1930s, completed in 1931. They started building cars here in 1932. During World War II, they changed what they were doing to help out the war effort and were building Jeeps and tanks.
But they built this in 1932 as a Ford Motor Company assembly plant for automobiles.
Yes,
they were
did.
Churning out cars.
Yes, they were.
And they were churning out cars until,
I believe, 1955.
Then Ford left.
Yes.
And what happened to this building?
The building was used by a variety of different owners after Ford left, but the building, the 524,000 square feet that you see here today.
Wait a minute. Let's say that number again.
524,000 square feet.
It's a big Ford assembly plant.
Building. And the users in there were using just small areas of the building. The rest of the building was really falling into disrepair.
So basically, this beautiful gem of an industrial building built in the 1930s was just sitting here after Ford Motor Company left it.
That's correct. The architect, Albert Kahn, was a noted architect for industrial buildings. And this building, the way it was designed, was referred to as a daylight factory. And when we get into the building, you'll see that there's not a lot of artificial light that's needed to shine in this building. It's the natural light that makes the building work.
Look at the lines just looking down here. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, very plain building, simple building, but beautiful in its simplicity.
It really is. I mean, the thought that went into that design is truly spectacular, and the way it's revealed today in 2009 is just spectacular.
And the good news is that the redevelopment folks here in Richmond looked at this and said, we got to do something with this building.
Yes, we wanted to save the building. In 1979, the redevelopment agency purchased the property and held on to the property to work with the development community to revitalize the building.
And it's revitalized.
Yes, it is. In 1988, we had the building put on the National Register of Historic Places. And then we worked from 1988 till 2003 when we brought the current developer here to revitalize the building to see the vision that the redevelopment agency saw.
Okay, we are inside the Ford Assembly Building, and I know before the tour is over I'm going to get used to this, but this space just blows you away.
Right, we're up in the mezzanine area. It's 190,000 square feet. So to give you an idea,
just this area right here.
Just this area alone. So you can see some of the cabling here. That was dealing with the seismic strengthening of the building to bring it up to today's standards.
All right, now we're here because your company is here. Introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Julie Blunden with SunPower Corporation.
SunPower Corporation, what do you do?
We make the world's highest efficiency solar panels and highest performance solar systems, from rooftops to power plants.
All right, and this is what's going on here? This is a huge space right here.
It is. About half of our California people are located in Richmond, about 300, that do design, engineering, and sales and marketing of our solar systems around the world.
And what a perfect place.
It is.
Look at this.
We couldn't ask for better light than what we get in this building.
Yeah, now there we get into the light.
There's
this is the natural light that was here, all of this opening that was originally designed to provide natural lighting when they were making cars.
Exactly, that's the daylight factory we talked about earlier.
And
natural
it's all
light,
still here.
All natural light.
What did your employees think when they came to work the first day? They must have just been blown away.
Well, they were, but the other benefit was that it was about 5 times as much space as we had been in before, so people were much more comfortable. But the thing that's really great about Richmond is we're able to do manufacturing downstairs that allows us to connect our R&D right to our engineering.
Okay, so you actually make the solar panels downstairs.
We assemble our systems downstairs.
I guess you don't have to worry about running out of space, do you?
You know, we're very happy to be in a position where we have a lot of space.
Okay, now look at these shiny floors. These are the original floors.
Original floors that just have been coated to bring it up to today's standards.
These are the original ceilings up here with some bracing put in.
Original ceilings, original brickwork on the side. The only thing we've done differently is replace the broken glass in the windows.
And look, and you know what? You got a lot of windows too.
A lot of windows.
See, I just love the architecture of this place. Did you keep just about everything that we're looking at here?
Well, there was actually nothing here.
What do you mean there was nothing here?
There was nothing on this floor here. It was completely empty space. You could look through from the front of the building all the way through to the back of the building. Everything that you see here, every structure, has been created.
All of this has been built inside the empty space.
Yes.
And this is where they're making they're the solar panels down there now.
We're on the mezzanine looking down to the ground floor. The mezzanine covers about half of the building, and then the rest is all underneath or open.
I love the angles. This is a building of angles, isn't it?
They call this roof system a sawtooth roof system. So you've got the angles
all the
that catch
way
the light.
through this way, and then it cut this way. Wow. Fellas, I think we're going to be in trouble with this tour because we're back outside. And see, I just want to stand here and look at this row of windows right here.
It's an incredible vista. Just looking at the building to see how it's turned out, I do the same thing every time I come down here.
See, I got blown away inside, and now we're going to the next company, but just being back outside again. And they designed this as a functional building, not to be what
it was designed as a factory, an automobile manufacturing plant. And what we've done to it, what Troy's done to it, and Marcy Wong and Don Logan, the architects, it's truly amazing to subdivide this building into a variety of mixed uses and to have it all work as efficiently and effectively as it has. It's truly amazing.
And I know I'm going to say this again before we end our adventure, but to think that this could have been torn down.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that it is what it is today, and it's going to remain that way.
How close did it get to being destroyed?
Very close. It was the vision of several of our council members, Tom Butt in particular, to maintain the building, to get the building on the National Register of Historic Places that allowed us to keep the building in place.
See, it could have easily gone down, though.
That's correct.
It's just another industrial building to a lot of people.
There were a lot of people saying tear the building down because the building is situated on 25 acres of land fronting on the bay.
Plus, it was probably, let's walk down here, it was probably kind of a mess when you got it too, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a mess. In 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake knocked a lot of the parapet down. The structural integrity of the building was compromised, and what we saw earlier in there with the adaptive reuse of the structure inside the building and the seismic reinforcements was a major part of the renovation of this building.
So it took some work to bring it back. It wasn't just as simple as polishing up the floors and replacing some broken windows.
It took a lot of work, over 2 years of work from Orton Development to get the building up to speed, to start to bring tenants into the space.
But look, these look like old doors right here.
They're the original
Are these
doors.
original?
Original doors. All of the original work we were keeping in the building because, again, it's on the National Register of Historic Places. So any of the work that we did on the building needed to meet the State Historic Preservation Officer's standards.
See, this is why we're not going to get this tour ever completed, because I'm excited about the doors.
and the windows and the floors.
Windows and the floors. But there's more. And we're heading there right now. Okay, here we go through another squeaky historic door. This is one of the originals here. Why are you bringing us down here, Alan?
Well, we're bringing you down here because what we've been looking at before was all the industrial part of the building. This is the lobby to the executive offices.
Okay, so the executive, all the big Ford executives were down in this end of the building.
We're down at the northern end of the building.
Okay, we've come up to the executive floor and we're being very quiet because there's still executives up here. They're just not Ford executives, they're executives with this clothing company.
That's correct, they're with Mountain Hardware.
All right, we're here, and we're here to see something that you wouldn't expect to see in a building like this.
Yes, the woodwork. A lot of it is original, but some of it has been recreated by some talented carpenters.
So this is the stuff that was here. These were the executive offices for Ford.
That's correct. And what Troy was talking about is that when the building was laying in disrepair for a number of years, a lot of the wood was damaged. And there was a very expertise carpentry crew that came in and recreated a lot of the wood panels that you see here today.
But look at this wood and the way it just kind of jumps out at you.
Right, with the old transom windows.
Yeah, and the beauty of all this is that it's historic and yet it's being used today.
That's correct.
Well, we're back outside the building again, and Alan has taken us over here to the parking lot. I haven't known him long, but I don't question where he takes me because there's always a payoff involved. Why are we standing here in front of the parking lot?
Yeah, Huel, we've got some old photographs that show the employees leaving the Ford Assembly Building, getting their checks here, and you see them all looking at their check, and then they move on and get in their cars and drive home.
This is where the employees park.
This is the employee parking lot.
And thank goodness you have all of these old photographs, because it really ties everything together, doesn't it?
Oh, it's great. When you look at it and see what was happening back in the 30s and 40s, and then look today what's happening.
You think of the stories, the life stories for decades that took place right here in this building.
And the stories are still going on today.
More old doors and another old section of this building. Now Troy has something he wants to show us.
Well, we're standing in the historic infirmary, and what we're doing here is we're making tables out of oak wood that was taken from a levee. It was compromising a levee, and my boss Eddie Orton bought a couple of truckloads of this wood, and we're reusing it. We're making tables being used in the building.
So this is old oak from an old California levee.
Yes, sir.
That was given away, and you are making tabletops, tables out of it now.
Yes, we've created a table making factory in here.
And it's all about recycling.
Yes, sir. Yes, just like the rest of the building, we're recycling this oak.
Wow, this is wonderful. And this would have just gone away. It was not being used at all.
I'm not sure what was going to happen with it, but when we bought it, we knew that we had a good use for it.
Wait a minute. I've just got another analogy. You're bringing it back to life, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said this used to be the
Ford Assembly Building?
Yeah, but what was this space right
the
here?
infirmary.
The infirmary.
Oh, okay.
Where they brought people back to life.
Yes, sir.
It all ties together. Okay, now we've come inside this amazing part of the building. I'm not sure where we are, Troy, or what all this is about.
Well, this is the boiler house, formerly the boiler room, and this used to power the entire building here.
So this is where they made all of the electricity.
Well, electricity and steam and to pump hot water through the building for heat, everything from here.
All right, now is this original equipment?
Yes,
right
this is
here?
original equipment. We took a lot of it out, left some of it in. This is a compressor.
Boy, you've got these wonderful pieces of equipment all the way around the building, and then this is, today, this is a restaurant and a bar.
Yes, this is a restaurant, the Boiler House Restaurant. Open every day, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
It's called the Boiler House.
Yes, sir.
And this kind of use for a building like this makes the redevelopment people happy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It brings people back down to our waterfront, helps revitalize businesses that are in the area, and it really makes it work.
Gives people a place to eat and drink.
That's right.
And it's amazing. I guess this equipment is still here because it was just too big to move over the years, wasn't it?
It was too big to move, and also with the vision of the building, it was envisioned that this would make a great spot for a restaurant. We always wanted to see a restaurant in this location. Yes.
So wait a minute. You mean to tell me you walked in here when it was in total disrepair and you stood here and said, restaurant?
We did, but we never thought it would come out this good.
Now it gets really interesting. We've come right outside the old Ford Assembly plant. I've hooked up with Superintendent Martha Lee, and you're the superintendent of?
Rosie the Riveter, World War II Homefront National Historical Park here in Richmond.
I always have to have you say that because I can't remember all the wording on this. We're walking down, what are we walking down?
The San Francisco Bay Trail comes through Richmond. There's 23 miles of trail completed in Richmond alone.
Most of it right around
right
the
along the
waterfront.
water. Right along the waterfront.
And we're coming here to stand in front of this old building that is part of the Ford Assembly plant. First off, let's just take a quick look over here. Look at the plant from this side. It's the first time we've seen the shape of the roof and all of that glass. It's just spectacular. But Martha, what is this little building all about? Because you're excited about this too.
This is part of the Ford Assembly building complex. It's called the Oil House. And underneath this building, underground, was a big space where the giant oil drums were stored that powered the boiler house where the restaurant now is.
So it all connects.
It all connects. This is part of the whole complex, and we're most excited about it because it's the site of our future visitor education center for our national park site.
So people will be coming here by the thousands, by the tens of thousands to visit your museum that tells this whole story.
Absolutely. It'll tell the national homefront story right here at the Ford building.
And your museum can tell that story, but this lady can tell it even better. Introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Betty Reed Soskin.
Nice to meet you. And you were here.
Yes.
Right in the middle of all of this activity in the 40s.
I worked in the Union Hall. The unions weren't yet desegregated, so that African Americans and blacks worked in separate unions, and I filed cards through the war.
Wow. And what was it like living here in Richmond? This was a hustling, bustling place during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, wasn't
This
it?
went from a company town of 23,000 people to 108,000 in a matter of months.
During World War II?
During World War II.
Because they were building ships here?
Because there were 9 shipyards throughout the Bay Area. That this was the nerve center for the war in the Pacific, which was being pretty much run out of the Presidio in San Francisco. And Richmond was the nerve center of that nerve center.
And there were all these Liberty ships being built here, but also right
Jeeps.
over here beside us.
Yes.
Jeeps.
And tanks.
And tanks in the Ford Assembly building.
Yes.
So this really was, Kenya, it's hard almost today, isn't it? Standing here and everything's so quiet. The wind is rustling through the leaves. The shadows are dancing on the pavement to remember.
Yes, when there were 98,000 workers moving in and out of the shipyards here, 3 shifts a day, 24 hours a day, except for Christmas, which was the only time they took off. And they managed to build 747 ships in 3 years and 8 months.
And lots of Jeeps and lots of tanks coming out of this building right over here.
Jeeps came out of here.
This is what this museum, this is why this museum is so important.
And this museum is going to be so important because of the location here at the Ford Building, right at the edge of the San Francisco Bay, where rail lines came into Richmond, and then shipping was available right here to the Pacific Front and all the shipyards around the bay. You can actually see them from this site. Visually, we can connect with all the other shipyards. So
and how do you feel about the Ford Building being saved?
we're delighted.
Okay, we've seen a lot of beautiful, inspirational things on this tour, but I think we may have saved the best for last. Look where we are now. And in fact, there's kind of an echo in here. This room is so big. Where are we, Alan?
We're in the historic Craneway. This is a 40,000 square foot open space. What it was used for, it was where they'd bring the cars for their final assembly, and during the war the tanks and jeeps would come in here for their final assemblage and then put them on the trains and take them out of the building.
And the tracks are still here.
Tracks are still here all along that edge of the building.
And the cranes are still here. That's how it got its name.
That's right. The
So
chassis
they've been
were put
sitting here all these years.
That's correct. And we wanted to keep the cranes there so you wouldn't lose that historic integrity of the space.
The chassis were what, lifted
We're
up?
lifted from the cranes onto the flatbed train tracks, or the trains.
Wow. And how is this being used today, Troy? This is a big space.
Currently, it's an event center, and we host anything from concerts to corporate galas to private weddings. Anything, you name it, we can host it here.
I can imagine a concert. You've actually had concerts in here?
Yes, we've had concerts here. We've had the symphony here. We've had a wide range of events.
What does it sound like in here with a concert going?
Actually, it sounds great now that we've installed acoustic foam wall around about 50,000 square feet, and it's cut down the reverberation quite a bit.
Well, there would have been plenty of noise in here in its first incarnation as well, wouldn't there?
Oh, I'm sure there would be. This would have been a bustling place.
Yeah, you can almost go back in time.
It does take you back. It's a really inspirational place. Some people have said it feels almost cathedral-like.
Yeah, and again, you think of all the stories of all the men and women who worked here over the years, and this will be a stop on the tour for people who come through your national park.
That's right. When it's not being used for events as an event center, visitors will have a chance to walk through this space and experience it as part of the national park.
Wow, this is just... I thought I'd seen it all, but this is my favorite room because you got the natural light that this building was so famous for. They never had lighting in here.
That's correct. And one other part of the building that's very interesting is this: we're over the water.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah,
Right now.
that's right. We're on pilings on the San Francisco Bay
So this was built out over the bay.
to facilitate that connection with the shipping
Wow.
for production.
It all ties together. Boy, this room is beautiful. Just standing here looking at it, it's still here in all of its grandeur. Okay, we're ending up our adventure in exactly the same spot we started it this morning, except now, Martha, I have a increased, hello, friendly people here in Richmond. I have an increased appreciation for that ship I see off in the distance.
Yep, we're looking straight across to the Kaiser shipyards and the SS Red Oak Victory, which was one of the 747 ships built here during the war years.
And it's all part of this national park that
Yes,
you're
it
putting
is.
together here.
Yes, it is.
And you were here when it all happened.
Yes, I
So
was
you
here.
saw it firsthand.
Absolutely.
And this has got to be a star in your crown for redevelopment here in Richmond. You have taken this beautiful building, which could have so easily been torn down, destroyed, wiped off the face of the earth, and made this wonderful place out of it.
Yes, it could have been, especially after the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, when the building was majorly damaged, and we were able to save the building, work with a developer to bring it back to life.
Well, congratulations. You're the developer, right?
Well, I'm part of a development team. Orton Development is the developer.
I know you're part of it on a day-to-day basis, so you see firsthand every day
Yes.
the life that's now re-emerging in this building.
Yes, and we have a great roster of environmentally conscious companies, and it's brought new life to the area.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this
Thank
wonderful
you.
new park you're putting together. Let's stand over here, because this is as much as I like looking out at the bay, this is my view right here, looking down this beautiful, beautiful industrial building in both directions. This place that started off as a Ford assembly plant back in the early 1930s and then fell into horrible disrepair, but has literally risen from the ashes and is alive and well, and is definitely a star in the crown here in Richmond. Richmond, California, one of California's communities. What a wonderful success story, right on the waterfront in Richmond. Ford Point is well worth a visit. Go check it out for yourself. And if you'd like to go on this particular adventure again, share it with family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library. Well, it's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.
California's Communities is supported by the California Redevelopment Association Foundation, a statewide organization made up of cities, counties, nonprofits, and private businesses sharing a common goal of bringing renewed life to neighborhoods and downtowns by expanding local businesses, creating jobs, building affordable housing, restoring buildings, and improving public facilities and infrastructure. Redevelopment, building better communities throughout California.